Alright, hi Internet, Orc speaking, welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to a little bit more Rebalance. This video is a pseudo-continuation of the previous video, the Flame Runner, so if you haven't watched that, be sure to watch that one before you watch this one. Oh, and we're also going to be playing the Mach bike today. So in the last video, we were talking about a concept called shadow buffing, shadow nerfing. We'll get to that in a second, but before we get to that, it's important that we understand another concept, which is called power creep, because they seem, subtle and, pretty much the same, but they aren't. They do have unique characteristics that separate them. So, what is power creep? Inside of modern games, if you've ever played like a mobile game or a modern shooter or anything that has characters that are added after the fact, there's this thing called power creep, which is when they add new characters. The newer characters tend to be stronger and more powerful than the older characters, and a lot of people accuse the developers, blaming them that they're trying to make new characters that are stronger and better, so that way they incentivize you. I'm gonna blow up. They incentivize you to buy those characters and play them. And as a game developer, there's some truth to that. Well, not a game developer, but someone who's developed a mod, a game, and had to tune all that. There is some truth to making the characters seem like they're better so that people play them. However, as someone who also tuned a lot of vehicles, it's just something that naturally kind of happens. At least for me, that's what I've noticed. Like, the more time I spent developing a vehicle and the more I know about the fabric of the game and what's possible, what's in the realm of possibility, the better the vehicles become. So to avoid this concept of power creep, because we wanted all the vehicles to fit a certain role, we didn't want some vehicles be so much better than the others. What we did was we actually made it so all the vehicles are actually were pre-tuned. So we would tune up all the vehicles, go through them all, and then we'd come back to them, and then push the speeds up to about 100 AKMH. And one of the many reasons, because some people were confused, why we changed the speeds up to about 100 AKMH. I think the average before was about 92. That was the average speed for pretty much every vehicle. And we wanted to change that to be a little bit higher, because the game is fun at a slightly faster speed, as long as you don't go too far into, I guess, 200cc territory, or 180cc territory. Troy actually mentioned this in one of his videos, but he commented that it kind of feels like 155 AKMH, which I completely agree with. It really does. And that's not a bad... Oop, I touched the off-road by a hair. That's kind of what we're going for. We want the game to be faster than stock, because a lot of these vehicles don't have enough intricacies in depth to, make 150cc driving fun. But at a little bit higher of a speed, then yeah, the vehicles work. There's this thing inside of game development, the more complex the game mechanics are, the slower the game is. And vice versa, the faster the game is, the less intricate mechanics that you need. So this is, if any of you guys get this reference, inside of Valorant, the game is quite slow. The game is surprisingly slow. So you have a lot of depth and mechanics in the way that the guns and aiming and recoil and patterns work. It's a very detailed style of shooting, very deliberate, compared to a game like Fortnite or a game like Apex, where you pretty much just point and click, because the game is so much faster. That applies in every game, not just battle royales or shooters. It just happens to be I play a lot of shooters. So there's that inside of game development. Hold up. My brain just kind of farted there for a second. This is actually the second time... the second time I had to record this video, because I recorded it initially the first time, but I made so many blunders. Alright, Fire Snake saved me. I made so many blunders that I just decided to re-record the entire thing. Alright, now that we understand power creep, let's get to what you guys probably clicked on this video to hear about, which is power creep. Not power creep, shadow buffing. Shadow buffing and shadow nerfing. So what is it? What is this shadow buff, shadow nerf garbage? Again, let's turn our attention to modern games, because it'll be easier to explain that way. When a mechanic is introduced, not a character, that's why there's a subtle difference, because sometimes those characters are the ones who bring those mechanical changes. But when a mechanic is introduced, or some kind of gameplay change is introduced, it affects different vehicles in different ways. So they may not necessarily be directly getting nerfed, like we're not nerfing the Flame Runner or nerfing the Mach bike. But by doing certain gameplay changes, these vehicles get subject to what we call shadow nerfing more than others. So let's give an example. Ever since we started developing Riibalanced, one thing that we wanted to do was tune up the karts. And I think we were quite successful at that. A lot of karters play Riibalanced because the karts are good. And that inadvertently actually changed the way that bikes are being played. Because there's a bunch of karts on the road. I've mentioned this in another video. The way that you play a bike fundamentally changes. You can't wheelie and hold a straight line anymore because karts are weaving in and out, which in turn makes you slower. So did the bikes get worse? No. The bikes are exactly the same. If you're playing inside of a full bike lobby and everyone's playing a bike, the bikes will be unchanged, unnoticed. They will be just as good as they ever were. However, when you get a bunch of when you get a bunch of karts in the room, the speed of what you're going to be traveling is going to be way slower, because you're not going to have the opportunity to wheelie, and therefore the opportunity to go as fast as you normally would. So that's a great example of a shadow buff. By making karts good in this game, bikes kind of inadvertently... I forgot how to trap that thing. Bikes inadvertently take a hit whenever a kart's around. Another example of that were the items. Now, one of the many things that we've done in Riibalanced was tune up the item. The items are way stronger in this game. Or, I'm not stronger, some of them are weaker. I would say more balanced. The items that you get in lower positions actually mean something a little bit more. And some of the busted items, like the shock, they've been tuned down so that they're a little bit more inclusive. They feel better to use inside of the game. But because of such drastic item changes, having vehicles that are acceleration based got a huge boon off of that. Because some items, they don't necessarily flat out knock you out, but they just slow you down. And having an acceleration vehicle that, you know, you don't have to SSMT, or everyone's not on the same page, they make it quite a bit stronger. It's nice to have just that little boost of acceleration, since in Mario Kart, you tend to get hit, and you tend to get hit quite a bit. A lot more than you bargain for. So that's an example of a vehicle like the Mach bike or the Flame one kind of getting shafted. Because in stock Mario Kart Wii, acceleration doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Since every vehicle combination has an acceleration stat so low that everyone SSMTs pretty much, you know, having a acceleration stat was dumb. Really, really, really dumb. It's one of the more pointless stats. But in Riibalanced, since every vehicle has a really good acceleration stat, and the items are tuned up so that they actually hit and do what they're supposed to do, having acceleration is actually quite important compared to stock Mario Kart Wii. So even though on paper, the Mach bike and the Flame Runner could outdo like a baby booster in every single way, in this game, the baby booster is arguably better than the Flame Runner. Definitely the Mach bike. Because they have the ability to bounce back from things. They have that acceleration archetype. So that's another example of how gameplay changes, and overall just game balance. Oop, I grew back at a horrid time there. Things like that change the way that, shadow buffing and shadow nerfing, as we call it. It changes the meta of the game. What's good, what's considered good, and what's not. Alright, let me see. Oof. This baby Mario is flying. Hold up, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to catch him. Like, sometimes you just get those weird outliers. Like, look at the entire pack in the back. They're just all cruising, and then we got Baby Mario in the front, just flying. Alright, I'll take second. Now, one of the things... Ooh, that was a voice crack. I haven't had one of those in a very long time. One of the things that I think you guys would be interested in, since some of you guys, I know, are from stat nerds, you guys are interested in vehicle characteristics. Let's talk a little bit about the Mach bike and the Flame Runner and their balance inside of Riibalanced. Fun to say, balanced inside of Riibalanced. Now, the way, like we were talking about shadow nerfing and shadow buffing, depending on the game fabric, the game's mechanics, how everything is put together, with the delay drifting and, I don't know why I said delay drifting, with brake drifting and fast falling and all these other unique characteristics that makes Riibalanced, the Mach bike was actually a better vehicle than the Flame Runner, even though inside of stock Mario Kart Wii, the Flame Runner is the superior vehicle compared to the Mach bike. So that was interesting. That's why these mechanics are important, because the Mach bike is, no one would consider the Mach bike a better vehicle, but in Riibalanced, at least in the older versions of Riibalanced, the Mach bike definitely was. Not that much better, but it was better. Well, close. I almost hit the fence there. So what we decided to do then was change up the flame runner. So we gave the flame runner and every vehicle a little bit more speed, but we also gave it some drift, more mini turbo, and I believe some acceleration. So we basically toned it into a bigger, heavier Mach bike. So then what did we do for the Mach bike? Since the Mach bike was already pretty good, we just basically gave it, you know, a little bit of a supplement on its weakest asset, which is weight. And I also believe this vehicle got a little bit more acceleration as well. Every vehicle got speed and acceleration, let's put it that way. I don't know if there's a single combination that didn't. So those were the actual physical changes that were made to the flame runner on the Mach bike. Oh, I think the Mach bike also was given some more mini turbo to further distance itself from the flame runner. Since the flame runner had some more mini turbo, we wanted to make the Mach bike feel unique, so the Mach bike got some more mini turbo as well. And it's very noticeable when you're actually playing the game. The Mach bike drifts way tighter, way tighter than like my brain is used to processing. So you may see me like sometimes run into walls because I'm drifting just that short. Be sure to grab your copy of Mario Kart Rebalanced version 5 today. Be sure to join the Discord server for technical supports and how to install, and have fun. Mario Kart Rebalanced version 5 available now.